Hello everyone, Jackie Edwards here again on a actually quite sunny day in the morning, so feeling good. I am just hanging out while my husband is actually away this week. So I was away a couple weeks ago. This time it's his turn to go away. He's off for work, so I am in charge of everything fully here at the farm. And yeah, luckily things are going well. So today though, I wanted to talk about well, the topic is fat is not a moral failing. And it's based on a post that I've made recently that's been, some of the comments have been really interesting. So one of the things that, I've researched and I've studied is, and honestly, one of the things that I felt for myself is like when we're fat, we're taught that like there's something wrong with us. It's because, we're lazy, we're gluttonous, we're greedy, we like can't control ourselves. And it all just feels like there's something wrong with us. Like if we could just get ourselves under control, then we wouldn't be fat anymore. And it just balloons out into like this big moral issue. And I think we have the Puritans to thank for that, if I've done my research correctly, because like the kind of fat phobia really stems from like racism back in the day. And then the Puritans just kind of like took that up and carried it off, because the Puritans were all about morality and like being like super strict and all that stuff. So if you were fat, that meant you weren't super strict with yourself, because you just let yourself eat whatever you wanted and just had way too much joy and pleasure in your life if you let yourself get fat. And Puritans were like, no joy and pleasure for you. So thank you. And then it's just carried on since then, because heaven forbid we just be normal. So I posted a post that the title was basically "Fat is not a moral failing." And I've had lots of lovely comments on there, of course, of people that are like, oh yeah, that's great, thanks, blah, 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 blah. And I appreciate all of your comments and all of your likes, because yeah, it really helps me, create content. But I've also, so one of the comments, and I get this on almost all the posts where I talk about, fat is okay, is somebody brings up health. And you're just like, how does that have anything to do with it? I said, fat is not a moral failing. And you're like, and somebody was like, oh, but what about your health? And that health is not being healthy is not a moral failing either. Like, most people wouldn't choose to be unhealthy, to be sick, to have a disease, to have an illness. Like, you don't get sick because something is wrong with you morally. Just like you don't get fat because something is wrong with you morally. Like, they are not linked at all. Your morals have nothing to do with what you look like and what your body does. And again, they got so linked because there was all of that, good and bad. And if, we're bad, then God is going to pass judgment on us and make us sick and teach us a lesson. Or, if we're bad, we're going to get fat because then everybody can see that we're bad, and blah, blah, blah. All these things come out. We need to fucking disconnect from that shit. Like, that is just systemic fat phobia. That is like ableism. That is just going back to the roots of just being super judgmental of other people. None of it is a problem. It just is. And when we unlink ourselves from that judgment, from thinking that we've failed somehow, so looking at ourselves and be like, I'm fat, it's all my fault, there's something wrong with me. Like, that moral failing is like deeply internally, there is something wrong with me. When we look at ourselves and judge ourselves for that, that's not helpful. Not at all. Any change that kind of comes from that judgment, any actions that we take, they're not going to be super helpful. Because like, feelings of shame, feelings of guilt, they don't help us to like make beautiful change. They don't help us to make beautiful lives. And if you want to read more on that, check out Brené Brown, because she talks a lot about shame and guilt in her research and her books. the same for health issues. If somebody can have the same exact disease, the same exact sickness, and be thin, that disease, that sickness is not caused by being fat. I don't think there are any diseases that are caused by being fat. Diabetes, thin people get diabetes, both 1 and 2. Heart attacks, thin people have heart attacks. High cholesterol, thin people can have fucking high cholesterol as well. All of these things that are blamed on being fat, even sore joints, arthritis, thin people get those things too. So if a health issue, a sickness, a disease, whatever, if thin people can have it, then it is not caused by fatness. And I know the doctors pretty much all think it is. And that's part of kind of the systemic fat phobia that we need to work against. But I want to share the message that it is not because you're fat. You are not morally wrong because you're fat. You're not like the epitome of the 7 deadly sins, sloth. I remember that movie 7, I think, with Brad Pitt. Anyways, that is not a moral failing. Fat is not linked to health. And I have recently posted in a group and been corrected to say it can go the other way. So health issues can end up causing weight gain because of medications that you have to go on, because of being a lot more sedentary, because of pain, all of those things. So they are linked, but not the way most people think they are. Most people think fat causes health issues, whereas the only way they're kind of truly linked is the other way around, whereas health issues can cause weight gain. Not always, though. Not always. And that doesn't mean health issues are inherently morally bad. Doesn't mean you are a morally bad person if you've got health issues. They are not always caused by you. And I think that's another thing in our culture today is like this super focus on like health. Like our health is totally within our control. And I bought into this for years, and we've all got all of this internalized. We're all internally fatphobic. We're all internally like have this ableism in our head that, our health is totally in our control. And if we just ate the right thing or did the right exercise or lived the right lifestyle, then we would be healthy. Like we can just fix ourselves. Sometimes shit goes wrong. Sometimes we're sick. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes we're born with like a genetic predisposition to things. Like we cannot always force our health. And just because someone isn't healthy doesn't mean it's because they've morally failed, because they're fat, because of whatever else there is. So unlinking those things and unlinking everything with morality, I think is so important, because who gets to decide what this morality is? What is morally right? Like for a lot of us over, especially in the US, it stems from like the Puritans coming over. And they were just so strict and so severe. And who made up all those rules, really? Like, was it God? Or was it some like old white dude that wanted to be in control of everybody else? I don't know. But I bet we can kind of figure that out. And even if it was like, is that really who we want to be now? Is that really the dictates that we want to follow? Or is there another way? Because is that actually working? Is me thinking that I'm fat because I'm a moral failure, because there's something inherently wrong with me, is that helpful in any way? Does that thought help me change myself, change the world, to be a better person, to create a better world, to help people, to just live any kind of decent life? If I think I'm a morally corrupt person and that's why I'm fat. If I think that I can't do anything, I can't help anyone, I can't be a good person until I'm thin. And then I spend all my life trying to get thin, hating myself, beating myself up, judging myself. And when I judge myself, I judge others. Because if I don't love myself, I can't love anyone else. So if I'm beating myself up and hating myself, then I'm doing the same thing to everybody else that I see. how is that helpful? Is that really something I want to think is true? That my morality, my worth, my goodness as a person is related to my size, is related to any health conditions I might have now, in the future, in the past. Not helpful. And it's not a paradigm I want to live in anymore. And I can totally recognize that most of the world around me lives in that paradigm. They live in the paradigm of fat, there's something wrong with you, you fucked it all up, that health is totally within your control, and if you've got any kind of health issue or disease, it's your fault because you haven't lived the right way. That's what the main paradigm is. We don't have to kill that paradigm. My goal is just for more of us to start living in this other paradigm where we are whole, complete, beautiful beings, no matter what our size, no matter what else around us. Inherently, we are whole, beautiful, worthy people. And once we can tap into that love for ourselves, release that judgment, then we can feel that for everyone. We can start to understand and just build a more beautiful, joyful world that I want to live in. And the more time I spend in that world, in that paradigm, God, the more joyful my life is. And I want to invite you all to come and live there with me. So, that's all I'm going to say for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will carry on for the rest of the week. Hopefully, I'll be back again because I don't have anybody else to take care of here. It's just me. So I should have more time. All right. Thank you for joining me. Go on and live your beautiful lives, and I will see you again tomorrow.